Hi, folks. I am the Reverend Casey Marie Pandell. I am a Unitarian Universalist minister serving the Summit Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in San Diego County in Santee, California. And I thought I would give everyone a little bit of a behind the scenes of this week's service. This week, I preached a service called Born This Way, inspired in part by the Lady Gaga song. No, I did not sing. You probably wouldn't have wanted that, but it might have been fun to have a dance party. I was inspired because this week is San Diego Pride Week. I know June is Pride Month, but this is our Pride Week here in San Diego, and Hillcrest is getting dressed up in its Pride best to celebrate the authenticity and the love and joy that comes with the LGBTQ plus community. And I was inspired by that sort of authenticity. Now, I'm not going to say this was particularly a Pride service or particularly a Pride sermon, but I was inspired by the ability and the courageousness it takes to live authentically ourselves. And I give a story about myself being a sort of blank slate of an actress in Orange County in my other life and what it has been like to grow into the authentic self that I get to present as the minister, and also why it's so foundational for me, why it matters so much for me to be able to show up exactly as I want to in looks and in personality when it comes to ministering to people. I always think I want to be the minister that I wanted to see. And I hope that when I bring my own authentic truth to all of you, that helps make ground break for people to come authentically as themselves. And I know that's a really big, tall order. Being ourselves is hard sometimes, especially when the world tells us how it thinks we should show up. And being able to claim our own truth realistically, holistically, as authentically as possible is truly an act of revolution and radical living. And I think it's so powerful when we get to show up exactly as we are, who we are, how we are, who we love, how we think, what we're like, what we look like. From the color of our hair to the person or people that we share our love and our inspirations with, all of it is welcome here. And so this is just sort of my ruminating on what that can be like, especially when we live in such a time as right now where there feels like a lot of discord and a lot of things that aren't feeling authentic and truthful together. So as always, although the first time for some of you, you are whole, you are holy, you are loved, you are so welcome here. If you'd like to learn more about Summit or about Unitarian Universalism, please feel free to come visit us at Summit on a Sunday. You can also check us out on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And of course, please feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.
When I was a baby bat, many, many moons ago, I grew up in Orange County, which is about 90 minutes north of here. And Orange County has a very strong, very long-standing punk rock scene. And I loved nothing more than going to punk rock shows. And gosh, did I want to look the part. I wanted the safety pins and the torn shirts and things. My mother would absolutely have not been happy if I tore any of my clothes. But I liked the tattoos and the piercings, and gosh, did I like the colored hair. And I remember at about 15, I went, "Mom, can I dye my hair?" And she went, "What color? Would you want to do red?" Because there was a really nice wine color box dye that I used for many years. And I said, "No, Mom, I want to dye it pink." And she went, "Honey, you can only dye your hair a color found in nature." I don't want to tell you how long it took me to realize that all the colors are found in nature, but that's a different story. And I was like, man, you're right, Mom. Because at the time, I was an actor. I wanted to be an actor. That's all I ever wanted to do as a profession. Since the time I was like 3 and I saw something with Laurence Olivier in it and thought, that's great, I want to do that. So I listened to the music, and when I turned 18, I got my first tattoo. None of you have ever seen it, because it was very specifically someplace where, unless I wanted to show it, I could not have it be seen, because I was an actor, right? So I had to make sure I looked as innocuous as possible. Because when you're an actor, you kind of have to be a blank slate. You have to have hair that's easy to mess with. You have to have skin that's easy to mess with. You can't have too many things that are too bright, too flashy. So I thought any tattoos I get are going to be really, really specific. Every single one of them is going to have a story behind them, because if I'm going to put something on my body permanently and I have to be aware of where it goes, I have to be really careful. And about 10 years goes by, and I was working at a Spanish immersion school in Santa Ana. And I will tell you, was not doing much professional acting. I was working at the Titanic exhibit at the time, and I did get to act for that. So having no tattoos was a great idea, because I had to pretend like I was on the Titanic. But then I lost that job, and I thought, well, what's the harm in a little bit of hair dye? And I used to have hair down like to here, to my chest, and I dyed the bottom half of it dark, 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 dark blue. So dark blue you couldn't tell it was blue, but I knew it was, and it felt really cool. Oh, I was feeling myself. I thought it was great. And then a few months later, my partner Dan died. And I spent a really long time thinking about all of the things he wanted to do at 40 that he didn't get to do while he was here. And I spent months thinking about this. It was one of the colors of my grief was all of the things he wanted to do and never got to see happen. And I thought one day, I don't want to die without having done all the cool things there are to do in this world. So the first thing I did is I got another tattoo. It's this one right here. You can't read it. That's by design, because he had terrible handwriting. It was really important to me to not hide Dan's words. It was extremely important to me because he was gone, and none of you in this room would know who he was if I didn't talk about him. So this is one of my ways that I could keep him alive. So I very specifically, with no other tattoos on that part of my body, put those words on my arm. And then a couple months later, I thought, oh, well, what about a hair dye again? So I bleached it and went bright purple for the first time. What did I do the next time I was in a play where I couldn't have purple hair? I just wore a wig. And then I got another tattoo. And then I got another tattoo. And then I got a tattoo on my hand. And then I got a tattoo on my chest and a tattoo on my shoulder. And every single time I did something to my physical appearance that felt good, I felt alive in a way that was really hard to feel when I was grieving. I think it was Michelangelo who said, when he was doing sculpture work, everything was already there. He just had to pull back the parts of the stone that were hiding it. And that's kind of how I think about my tattoos and my piercings. And for a while, it was just for me. And yes, all of the way I look is just for me. But then I found my calling to ministry, and it became really important to me to figure out how I wanted to show up in the world as a minister. We have something called CPE, it's Clinical Pastoral Education. And it's when we do all of our pastoral care training, and it has to be done in a hospital setting. I had 2 interviews for hospitals to work out. One was at Ronald Reagan, UCLA, and one was at Cedars-Sinai. And at Ronald Reagan, I said, how do you feel about tattoos and piercings and colored hair? And the guy went, oh, you have to wear sleeves that covers everything. If you have a hand tattoo, you got to cover it with makeup or gloves. You'll be wearing a mask so no one will see your nose piercing, because this was during COVID. And your hair, you have to dye it back. You can't have colored hair here. It has to be blonde, black, or brown. Fine. And then I interviewed with Cedars-Sinai, which for the record, I will have you know that Reverend Christina Shu was on my interview for that. I went to Cedars-Sinai for my internship. And I asked them how they felt about tattoos and piercings. And they all looked at each other on the call and went, you know what? Let's just see what happens. Show up with your tattoo, show up with your hair, see how people respond to you. If they don't respond well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And it turned out after 13 weeks, the only time anyone ever stopped me was if they saw me charting at a computer and they thought I was just some random person playing on one of the computers. I got really good with my peripheral vision and a badge, so. And that was the only time. No one, in fact, a lot of people would ask me about my hair. What color is that? Where did you get the dye? All kinds of questions that I had been told that no one would want to know the answer to. You don't look the way you should. We're going to ignore you. See, I was told my whole life, not by my mom, but by society, fall in line. Look the right way, wear the right clothes, have your hair cut the right way. I'm a woman in the United States. That's all I've been told my entire life. And how freeing it was for me to say, no, this is my temple, darn it. I'm going to decorate it how I want. About a year into my time here, someone came to, I think, one of our celebrations of life. I wish I could tell you who it was. I've never seen them since then. But it was a woman who was in her late 50s. And she walked up to me and she said, "Oh, Reverend, I'm really excited to see you up there." "It's really excited to see me?" She said, "Yeah. You got all those tattoos, you got piercings, you got your hair colored. I wish I was brave enough to show up that way. And I really hope it matters for people when they see you up there." Who in this room went to a Catholic church growing up? Who went to a Methodist or a Baptist or a Mormon church? Did you see any of your ministers with tattoos and piercings? The Lutheran church has a pastor named Nadia Bolz-Weber, covered in tattoos, and will drop an F-bomb from the pulpit given half the chance, but that was before she was officially a Lutheran, not quite after. And I remember thinking she should be one of ours. She looks like us. Turns out she tried us on for size in the 90s, and we were not spiritual enough for her. But it was really exciting to see there were other ministers that way. And then if you go to GA, so many of our ministers have brightly colored hair. I think it's kind of one of our things. I think if you tell people you're clergy and they look at you and they go, "Oh, you've got colored hair, you're a Unitarian." I don't say any of this to make pride about me or to make what I'm saying about pride, but I do feel if you're being authentic, you should talk about the things you know. And boy, do I know what it means when you're brave enough, when you have the space to be brave enough to show up exactly as you want to be seen. There are some people who, even in UU spaces, don't love the idea of their ministers having piercings and tattoos and colored hair, and they usually come around to it, but it does happen. Because those things that we've been taught our whole lives, that if you're gonna be this way, if you're gonna conform, this is how it should be, those things are hard to break. They're really hard to break. And that's why I think pride celebrations are so important. We have people who have been told their whole lives that something is wrong with them. And I don't just mean people who identify in the LGBTQ community. All of us, at one point or another in our lives, I can almost guarantee it, has been told by someone that we knew there was something that wasn't right about us. It might have been the person you love, or the way your body looks. It might be the way that you talk. I got told a lot as a kid, "Be quiet, you're too loud, you're too much." It's really hard for me to make friends with kids, that's for sure. Look at what I get to do now. You're too loud, you're too much, and yet I get to stand here and be this loud, too much person here with all of you every week. And if I get to do that, I always hope when people walk through those doors, whether it's your first visit or your 5,000th visit, that you can see me in 99% of Casey, because again, there are some words you can't say from the pulpit. I hope that people come and see this person and realize that this is a place where you can be. You are encouraged to be, just like a pride protest, a pride celebration, a pride march. You are encouraged to be exactly who you are. I had never been to a church where that was okay. There was always something that had to be changed. I was told at a Baptist church that if I didn't accept Jesus Christ into my heart, that I would be in fire and brimstone until the end of days. Almost verbatim what that man said from the pulpit. I didn't attend another church for 5 years. So it's important for us to be able to show up exactly who we are, exactly as we are, and not to just have the space to show up that way, but to be embraced with open arms and say, in all of your weirdness, in all of your silliness, in all of your whimsy, in all of your seriousness, all of your quiet, all of it is welcome here. Not just welcome, but affirmed, embraced, loved here in this space exactly as you want to be. Yes, we know being in community can be difficult. People are hard to be in community with sometimes. We don't all think alike. We don't all speak alike. But we all, at the center of it, want to be loved and valued and seen exactly as we want to be. We have one beautiful and precious life. Mary Oliver has told us this more times than we can count. So what are we going to do with it? Are we going to let people tell us, our government tell us, how we can show up in our world? Are we going to keep letting our parents or our kids or our dogs? No. If we are living our authentic truths, I think that is one of the most revolutionary things we can do. It's radical, extremely radical to stand there 10 toes down and say, this is me. And if you don't like it, I'm not for you. And that's okay. I hope you find your people too. This may not be the home for everyone, but for those of us who are willing to show up bravely, authentically as ourselves, in all of our glory, in all of who we love and how we view the world, this is your home then, if you are willing to be brave enough to try. And even more so, if we can be brave enough to love each other into our authentic being. So may it be, and amen.